Councillor Santos?
Present.
Councillor Drew?
Here.
I am here as well. All councillors are here and accounted for. And we also have with us Maggie Dupree, the CAFO, in attendance. Can I get a motion for the acceptance of the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Drew,
Second.
seconded by Councillor Santos. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. We will move on to public participation. There is none. So we will move right into the bulk of our agenda, which is basically just having discussions on potential items that we're going to see next week as we go through and start the budget process. Thank you to both of you for, getting this together and helping raise these issues so that we can have these discussions and hopefully be in a better position starting next week. So the first item on our agenda is the FY26 year-to-date financial position. We'll start a discussion of the city's current FY26 financial position, including revenues collected to date, expenditures to date, projected year-end position, and any major accounts or departments that may require transfers before June 30th. And I just want to let the public know as well, because of everything going on with the budget, some of these discussions, actually all of these discussions, are going to be limited to the information that we've actually received and had a chance to digest. I know the CAFO sent us over some stuff. I personally haven't had a chance to really digest that yet because we got it today. And I understand why, but I'm just, stating for the record that we're limited, as to the time we've had to review this. Does anybody want to start the discussion on this?
Sure.
Councillor Drew?
Thank you. Madam CAFO, thank you for this information. I know that you've been straight out for the last month, so I appreciate you sending me all the financials that I continue to ask for, and you've been very good about it, so thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge that. So just on a couple of items, I was looking through, and I only printed the expenditures. I didn't have a chance to print the revenues, which we can discuss in a moment. So I saw there were a couple of items, like line items that look like they're going to end up pretty close to where they're all forecasted. There weren't any that were outrageous outside of what we know. With DPW, I think, let me find that one, that's significantly off, but that's because of the snow, correct? Stay with me. But when I get to the back end, you have the total risk and employee benefits. To date, we've spent about 97.71% of the budget.
Yeah.
And we're about 87% through the year.
Which line are you on? I'm sorry.
Well, I don't have the line items. I just printed I'm all the way towards the bottom. I think it's like the last.
Total risk and employee benefits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to know, are we going to see any money that we're going to have to put into that? Because obviously there's still another month that we're going to have to still pay things. Are we going to have to put money into this fund at all?
So in the general fund, no. So what happens with a lot of these specific accounts are that they are either one-time payments, like the pension fund, that's a one-time payment that we pay at the beginning of the year. So it's not recurring throughout the year. So that just goes right to 100% spent. As far as the health insurance, similar, it kind of all goes over one time over into the health trust fund so that it can fund our health trust fund. Medicare tax you'll see go down as payroll goes down. I think there'll be some funds left in there. Same life insurance goes through the payrolls. Again, we're on a good tick there. And insurance premiums will be covered by those other two that I just mentioned having surpluses. So I'm not concerned about that. What I do foresee is a deficit in the health trust fund, which I know is something that we've kind of been talking about for quite a bit now, but trying to get an actual number on that. We're working on that. It's difficult because claims change constantly. RX pharmacies, those spends change constantly. And then also funds that we get in for stop loss change constantly. So we're paying attention to it, but I do think our deficit's going to be somewhere around where it was last year, in the millions. So, which is unfortunate, but is the nature of what we anticipated seeing. Again, not a definitive number yet, and trying to come up with a plan of how we want to try to cover some of that via the budget that already exists, and whatever else we could cover, trying to get a more definitive number before it comes to council for any of those changes, but obviously done before the fiscal year ends. So between health insurance and snow and ice, those are really my only two big concerns as far as the end of the year goes. We do need to take action for both before the end of the year, otherwise they're going to hit free cash or our taxes. If the health insurance trust fund isn't handled before the end of the year, they can put that against our taxes, the state, I mean. So we've got work to do there a little bit, but those are really the only two areas that I see for 26 that we're currently watching, that we're concerned about.
Okay. Just another quick one was the solid waste. I know we've had a lot of ad nauseum discussion about solid waste over the last month. Mm-hmm. It looks like with the encumbrances and what's been spent to date, we're about 98% spent.
Yeah.
And, we're trending about 11.5% higher than what we should be. We're not worried about any money needing to move into that fund at all? I know we just transferred $850.
We did, so.
Is that reflective in this?
It is. So once that was already moved, we encumbered it right away for the most part. Most of it we encumbered, knowing that we're going to need to spend that with Harvey. So we just put that as part of our purchase order so that we could show that it's accounted for. The hope is that my projections are conservative, and so our actual tipping fees will come in a little bit less than, so that it'll fall, but I'm confident that we'll be able to cover what's in there.
Okay, so we shouldn't exceed what's in the line.
Don't anticipate more, no.
Okay, because right now it says available is 131,000. There's about 131,000 still available to date. And you're saying there might be other monies that have to maneuver.
Yeah.
That all should cover us for the next 47 days or whatever it is.
Yes.
Okay. I think there weren't too many other ones that kind of jumped out at me, other than, like I said, the DPW. That's a major one. That's 26% over. What I'm looking at is what's available. We're 1.1 million low, with the 2.7 million in snow and ice. So how much are we going to be looking to move of the snow and ice over to the DPW line? Are we looking to move the 2.7, or are we going to move, 1.5?
So we're looking at that right now, is trying to figure out what we can transfer within versus what we're going to have to ask for with reserves. Right now, the deficit is just under 2.5 million. So that's the kind of number that we're looking for as far as what we need to cover there. Mm-hmm. If we can take it from other expenses within DPW, then that's what we'll do. Trying again to watch that as the year gets closer to end as to what's left over and what's projected to be left over. And so we can kind of balance that with what we need from reserves. But right now we'll need to cover the 2.5, it's a little less than that, but within those two buckets.
Okay, and I'm only asking so we don't overcommit free cash to it, because once we do that, that locks it out for the rest of the year, right?
It locks what, free cash?
Yeah, if we put 2.5 in and we only really need 1.8, that locks 700,000 until it gets certified.
That's right.
So not that we're in a spot that we need every dollar, because we'll have a little bit of fluff to play with, a few million, but we'd also want to make sure that it's available for, if needed. But
yeah, and I think the conversations with the solid waste, those conversations were helpful as far as direction. So looking at health insurance and looking at snow and ice, we really want to look and see, okay, well, where can we take it from that is current and exists, that are in our budget that we might have surplus in, and then what do we actually need to go to reserves for? Some of these numbers we're going to know, there's a vacant position or there's something, but some of them we won't. So we're doing that work now so that we can bring in June to the council as far as our plan to cover those two things.
Does anybody have anything else on that before I move on to revenues?
The only thing, I think you answered it, but obviously with the deficit in the healthcare, snow and ice, you said something like, we don't take action. And my question that I had here was, what kind of action are we taking? Is it just a transfer? Was there something? But it sounds like there might be surpluses that you just said in those other line items so that we don't have to necessarily just.
Yeah, the hope is that we can take some of it from those surpluses. So it would be action as far as like a transfer request. So it might be, in the accounting line, we have funds for whatever reason. That's just an example, but that we need to move to snow and ice to cover. So we'd like to move within
the
if we
same-
can. We'll need action from the council as far as moving it from one budget to another, because the only way we couldn't is if it was within the other expenses.
But you think for that, for instance, it sounds like we might have a surplus within DPW to just move it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be $2.5 million, but I think if we can at least do some of it there, and then the rest, we would probably go to our reserves or free cash. But trying to get it down as much as we can with what we have available in the budget. But that action might still come to you as far as, DPW personal services we need to move. Any of that would need council approval.
I hate the name free cash. And I
Same.
understand
It does
comes
give
from
it
the
a
state,
terrible,
but it doesn't
that's
do
why
us-
I call it a reserve, because to
Yeah.
me that's what it is, but free
Yeah.
cash makes it sound like it's laying in my drawer.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
there you go. Which is, I totally
It's
agree with you.
deceiving, right?
It is deceiving, yeah.
So. Counselor Santos, did you have anything?
I just want to know what is the current balance for the free cash?
So I don't have it right in front of me, but I can get that up. Hold on 1 second.
It was 20.
21 million.
Yeah.
I grabbed the council.
Is there one?
So right now, it's 19,163,678 after the two votes were taken in the last few meetings for trash and payroll. $19,163,678.
I knew it was 20, but that's after the 850 transfer, right? So it makes sense. Okay, should we?
Yep.
Do you want to move on to the next, or do you want to?
Just one thing, just so clarify, I mean, I think I understand it, just in case anybody is watching at home. There's a line item here in the DPW that we figure $28,000 for lifeguards, for instance. We've spent $16,444. There's available $11,556. That's what you mean by we'll end up transferring that money into, just bringing that down into another line item to avoid free cash expenditures.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was just, for some of the people at home, just so there is some clarity.
Yep.
I think that covers me on my expenditure questions. Do you want to go into revenues at all?
Sure, the budget assumption?
No, not the
want?
assumptions yet. I still wanted to finish this.
The general fund revenues, basically.
Yeah, so on the revenue component, because there were multiple tabs on the
Yeah.
workbook here today.
Let me hear.
Didn't have a chance to do that one, but
No, and mine's not printed, so I'm on here. Sorry.
All right.
Do you want me to print it?
It's okay. Oh, that's better than my phone, thank you. Sorry.
So my question goes to, and I had sent you like that email, just basically Health and Human Services, for instance. We're seeing.
You sent me an email today.
No, this was like last week
Oh, okay,
when we
okay.
kind of discussed
Okay, yes,
revenues.
yes.
Very
Yeah.
generally, I sent you a little Excel doc.
Yep.
And I look in 2023, I think our cost of that department was $850,000 with an income of $2.4 million. In 24, we were at $1.2 million with an income of $2.1 million. And then in 25, we were at 1.4 million with an income of 1.8. So we're just seeing that revenue trending downward with our expenses rising up. Is there something that we should be looking at more on the fee side? Do you find that our fees might be too erring on the low side? That we should try to readdress all of these in the coming year? Not that I am a big fan of fees by any means, but we have to make sure that we're covering costs. And if the way that trend is going, where we're losing $500,000 a year net, it's not going to trend well in 2 years. By that trend, we'll be losing,
now.
right, we'll lose money.
Right.
to be able to pull permits.
Right.
So I think would you say we should do a whole overhaul of that department's fees and really take a look at it, or are you guys already taking a look into that?
So we're already looking in that. Kaylee, the director, has been great. She and her staff actually did a whole analysis as far as the health side and the building side, as far as comparable fees in other like towns and how we compare. And she does have some things. I know she's going to the Board of Health in the next week or so with recommendations for what things, the areas that they are low in, so that they could take that under advisement. Doing the same thing on the building side as far as looking at those things. There are areas that we are low for sure, and I do think that we need to look at all of those things. And I don't mean just in HHSI. I think there are some things in the clerk's office that we're low in, and in all sorts of different areas. A few of the things that we actually have as assumptions in fiscal year 27's budget include changing some of those fees, which we can go over when we get to that piece. But there are definitely things that we need to be looking at. I think a lot of fees haven't changed in a lot of years, and so they need to, the costs for like services are going up, so I do think that we need to make that adjustment. And I think that that's a big area, building, health, ambulance, water, sewer. I don't want to get too involved in the other things, but trash barrel fees, and I know that that's been something we've talked about, but that's something that we would like to bring forward to council to get increased as well.
Because, like, just to, not to harp on the inspectional services, but I'm looking at your revenues from this year. To date, we had originally budgeted $879,940 with a projection of, was that $593,000 coming in?
That did not pull all the way down. I'm sorry. So in that section, yeah, I'm sorry, that total didn't include the building permits.
Oh, so yeah, you're 2,995 and change. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, so and some of these too are a little bit more cyclical, as far as, we don't see as much in, certain permits at different times of years. And also how we process them could be a little bit different. So the timing of what's in here, there might only be 9 months of revenue in here. And so we've got to look at it from that angle. But I'm not overly concerned with where we're at this point. One building permit could put us, back over the other way. So I think there's been a few permits in the last couple of years that were very large. So you can see kind of the building permit line, a little bit of a fluctuation, because one year you might have a huge development or something versus another year where you don't. So that one fluctuates quite a bit because it is depending on what's going on. To me, it's a good driver too, though, of what growth might look like. So we kind of look at that trend as far as projecting growth. For fiscal year 27, our growth is not where it has been. It's a little bit of a lull, but then again, looking at the building permits and what's out there and what's coming, I do see us coming back up for the next year or two in growth. So, but it is kind of a projector on where that is going.
Okay. And you have the other departments. I mean, just from a budgeting standpoint, when we get the book, just to know, like, your numbers, the way you're forecasting it with the budgets that come from the other departmental revenues. I don't have a line item I can show you. It's the one directly underneath the fines and forfeits.
Yep. The 1.1.
We forecasted 1.145 million. As of now, as of today, we're at 871,000. Mm-hmm. So I mean that's like a bust of 350 grand, 400 grand, give or take.
Yep.
How are you planning to, with some of these that do have like significant like differences, like even the next one down, charges for other services. I know there was some discussion about maybe some fire department changes on fees, because that one there is $1 million short.
So that one there is short because there's only half a year of ambulance fees in there. We haven't added we get them from a third party, so we bill out through our third party. So it's always a little bit in arrears as far as up to date, because we book it as we get those reconciliations from our outside party. So that, I believe that 1.3 is half of a year. And so I would anticipate that that's going to grow greatly from where it is right now, I mean.
Okay. I will say, whatever this miscellaneous revenue is, we got to do that again on the next line item.
So
Down 450 grand, I'm in.
Yeah. So what we have in there is some of it is legal settlements, like the PFAs. We got some things from that. Legal's done a great job of trying to settle a few things that we've been able to put in there. That's where you would see those. We also have a legal settlement line, but it all starts in miscellaneous revenue, and then we might break it out depending on how we report it. But right now, it's all sitting in that line. But it's money that we aren't guaranteed from one year to another, so we put it there, kind of thing. But as far as your question, as far as like projecting where we're going, the way that I look at our revenues for going forward is that 10-year plan that I sent out, I look at that and say, okay, what's the average for the last 3 years? And you look at what that number is. And then I look at this year and say, okay, where are we projected? How are we looking now? Like, is it on trend? Is it not on trend? And then that kind of then puts me into the, dive in deep area where, okay, well, why is building permits so high in one year but not another one? It's because we had one big thing, or so it kind of drives the research, I guess. But that's kind of where we go, is the three-year average for, so in this case, we looked at 23, 24, 25. Those are full year revenues, what the average of those three are, and then looked at this year's and said, okay, are we on trend, are we not, and what's skewed, what doesn't look right, and figure out if that's something that we can continue to use as a trend for next year, or if it's more of that was a one-time thing that we can't consider to come in again next year. So that's kind of the methodology.
Okay, so you're using 3-year revenue incomes, averaging, adding the 3%, 5%, whatever the trend is, on top of what this year is to kind of gauge you.
As far as the departmental revenues thing goes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So you're not seeing, other than the snow, ice, and health trust fund, those are the big maybe out of free cash that we have to handle quickly. We may have a bunch of maneuvers here and there through the rest of the year. That'll just be standard business practice, moving money to clean up the house.
That's right. It's cleanup. That's you said perfectly. Yeah.
Okay.
I will say, in the past few years, the way that we have handled some of our other funds is that at the end of the year, instead of, is that we assess, so when I say other funds, I mean like our ILD or injured in the line of duty account fund, or the workers' comp fund. We kind of assess where we're at with the balances in those, and then we've gone to council and asked for funding at the end of this year to put money in there so that we can replenish what we need in there for the next year. It's very much fluctuating because it depends on, do you have people out for workers' comp? Do you have people out on ILD, unemployment? So we're still looking at those as far as what that might look like, or what our plan is for that. So I just want to put that on your radar too. That's something that we've done the last multiple years. But that's not related to this budget or anything like that, or the 27's budget.
Do we have an idea on when we're going to have any feedback from the state on how much money we're going to receive from them?
So unfortunately, we don't. And I know there's lots of conversation about we're going to get more money, we're not going to get more money, we're going to try for more money, we're going to get more of this. And that's kind of typical every year, is that, they try to, but it seems to be louder this year. So I'm hopeful, but I have to err on the side of caution in that we don't know that we're going to get that. And some years we do, and some years we don't. So when we budget for 27s, revenues, we look at the governor's budget. So the way that they do it is they'll put out the original governor's budget, and then it goes through all the process. It goes through the House, the Senate, it goes through all of the different committees, and then it comes back to the governor, and she or he will do whatever they do. And that's obviously the amount that we get. That doesn't happen until the end of June, July. I mean, it really depends on the year. So we have to go with what we have. And so we go with that governor's budget because historically it usually comes somewhere within that realm. That said, some of the things that they're talking about increasing are circuit breaker monies, which is hugely helpful for us because it's special ed related. And that would be really not funding our general fund. It would just be allowing them to fund some of their special ed costs from there. That's something that happened last year that literally we were sitting at this table and the superintendent came over and was like, I just got millions of dollars or whatever. I mean, she didn't say it like that, but it was like, and we took a few minutes and then we ended up waiting another week because we were getting that information, and that was in June. So we don't have that information as far as what it's going to be or when it's going to be, and that's really one of the trickiest, if not the trickiest part of this whole process.
You all set? Yeah. So just a question. I get it, right? Every year, I understand why we budget the way we do and what we have to rely on in terms of what's coming in, going out. And unfortunately, like you said, always at the 11th hour, we get this white horse that comes in. So while we're prepared for the worst, I feel like everyone still hopes that that white horse is going to come riding in, and it's not guaranteed year to year.
Right.
We had a lot of talks earlier this year about back taxes, unpaid taxes, that sort of stuff. Have we made any strides? To me, that's like low-hanging fruit, and there's a lot of it.
Yep.
Have we made any strides to maybe reinstitute foreclosure proceedings or, looking at abandoned property, that sort of stuff? And again, I'll reiterate because I've said this several times, we're not looking for the lonely senior citizen who fell behind.
Right.
That's not who we're targeting with this, but we do have habitual tax delinquents. Mm-hmm. I know we used to publish it in the paper, and that sort of, for lack of a better word, embarrassment for a lot of people motivated them to come in and pay their outstanding taxes, right?
Yep.
The threat of foreclosure. We have abandoned properties, I'm sure of it. Mm-hmm. That sort of stuff. I mean, I feel like with such a substantial amount outstanding, I mean, that could offset our budget. So I guess my question is, have we looked at making, that a real action to take on behalf of the city to get our, similar with the trash barrels, right? Like, we need to make that a real fine, a real penalty. Right now, not paying your taxes, and you've got the same honest, hardworking people paying their trash bill, paying their real estate taxes, and then you have the same people who are overfilling their barrels, not paying their tax bills, right?
Yeah.
And all of the rest of the residents who are doing these things are footing the bill.
Yeah.
So again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to go off, but
No,
have we looked into making it more of an actionable, finable, regaining those funds for the city?
So we do work with a specific law firm that works with foreclosures and liens and things of that nature, and they've collected for us millions and millions of dollars since we've instituted them, which was, I believe, in 2020 or 2019. And so we continue to work with them to get after those properties that we can get after. As far as publishing them in the newspaper, I'm not sure why we stopped doing that, and I don't know if that was a mandate change or a cost change. I'm not sure, so let me look into that.
Can we look into that?
Absolutely.
And my other issue is, when you send over the numbers for us for back taxes, with all due respect, the law firm that we have, while they might have recouped millions of dollars, those numbers are exponentially going up every year. So something's failing there.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming the law firm. I don't know what it is that's doing that, but they're growing exponentially. So there's a disconnect somewhere. We have to do something. Those numbers were ridiculous for me, and literally that would change this entire budget if we had that money to the city right now. There's no reason we all pay taxes, right?
Yeah.
We should all pay our taxes, and there should be ramifications if you don't.
Yep, I will look into that and report back.
Thank you. Councilor Drew?
Thank you. I had spoken briefly, I don't know if it was with you or the mayor. I was reading there were provisions that we could potentially stop people who may have permits, open permits, like building permits, liquor licenses, those types of things.
Yeah.
Is there, I don't know if that, I mean, I don't think that's your office by any means. Maybe that's something we as a council need to start looking at to try to get that implemented so that we can have that
If they have an open permit, they
mechanism.
can't open another one?
No, like if they
have a
owe the
lien.
city $3 million in back taxes,
Yeah.
and they have a business running with a liquor license, we can stop the use of their liquor license.
So we did something similar. Do you remember? Sorry.
No, not a problem.
No, it's okay. I had put forward that resolution where if you have outstanding taxes, you can't necessarily get a contract with the city to, right? Like, why should we be paying you if you owe us money? The state does a similar thing, so the solicitor and I had worked, and we voted that in. So it would be something similar to that, I think, right? That would be easy to do. Yeah, I don't think it's probably, you wouldn't know. We should find out if there's anything similar or if it needs tweaking. Because that's what happened with my resolution. There was something on the books that just wasn't very clear.
Okay, I'll take it to do on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to help too. Anybody else have anything on the first agenda item? Do we want to move on? I think we hit on most of it.
Yeah.
I think we might have even touched a little on the second one, but do we want to move to the second? Are we okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to FY27 budget assumptions and major cost drivers. This will be a discussion of the major assumptions expected to drive the FY27 budget, including property tax levy, new growth, state aid, local receipts, health insurance, retirement, debt service, trash and recycling, contractual wage increase, and other major cost pressures. Potential fees that may need to be addressed or increased prior to FY27. And I know we touched on, obviously, the big ones, right? Health insurance and trash and that stuff. But do you want to start with the CAPA? Or do you have anything you want to answer specifically?
Yes, thank you. I just had one question, I guess we'll kind of kick it off. The approval of 100%, you sent in this email today, approval of 100% of the meals tax to continue to go to the general fund for FY27. Just because I wasn't here last year, what was that meals tax going to prior to this year? And what are we not funding by putting it into the general fund? And what are we funding with it going into the general fund?
Yep, that's a great question. Originally, the answer is the general stabilization fund. So originally, in 2019, I believe, we voted to put 100% of our meals tax funds into stabilization automatically. So anything that came in for meals tax would go there and fund stabilization. We had really no stabilization fund and no way to fund it at that point. So that's what we did. And then, I'm going to get this timing wrong, a couple of years ago, we decided to change it to 75-25. So 75% of it went to the general fund and 25% stayed with stabilization. And that, at that point, was done because we had reached over $10 million in the stabilization fund and felt that was the push, was we were really trying to get that rainy day fund up. And so once we got to a point where it was at a good balance, that we could back off a little bit and do the 75-25, meaning we would still fund some funds going in there, but also be able to help support the general fund again. Last year, with the crisis, with the schools and everything that was going on, we asked the city council, and they approved us to change it for 1 year, that 100% of the meals tax would go to the general fund to support the budget. That resolution, ordinance, that action had a 1-year clause on it. So as of the end of fiscal year 26, it would default back to 75-25, meaning 75% of it would go to the general fund. One of the assumptions that we have done as part of this being in a crisis as we are is that the decision was made to ask council to again approve a 1-year extension of that 100% going into the general fund and not funding the stabilization for another year.
Okay, so is that something that we need to bring in front of the council in June? I mean, obviously, we want to have that done prior to the end of the year.
Yeah, so I actually drafted it, but I believe the understanding was that the mayor wants to present the budget first so that you know kind of why and have that conversation and then bring it forward. So it is out there to bring forward, so that is the intention.
Okay, makes sense. Now, just staying on the meals tax, our meals tax rate that we, restaurants charge, we get a certain percentage. Are we at the max of that tax amount, or?
So I believe we are. I'm going to double check that, but I believe we are.
And I'm not being a proponent for raising that. I'm actually if there's just a maybe kind of kick growth a little bit or development on the restaurants, is that tax hindering certain restaurants from wanting to come here because they may not see their base because people think.
So
Granted, it's a very minimal tax, but
yeah, and I
also
think it's
don't know if it
derived
makes
from the state, and it kind of goes through them as far as how we get it. But I'll double check that and get back to you.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody have anything on the second budget item? Anything else?
Just one question. I know that one of the councils requested a list of the positions that are being funded by grants.
Yes.
Have you looked into it? I don't know.
I did. I sent it to her, but I can send it to the whole council.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes, that'd
absolutely.
be nice. So that way we have a better idea of where the money is going.
Yeah, I can talk to it right now if you'd like.
Positions that were funded by grants.
Grant-funded position.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 grant employees in HHSI that are funded via grant. And we have 2 at the senior center. The senior center, I'll talk to first because it's more straightforward. So those 2, the senior center receives state aid every year. It's like they call it a grant, but it's annual. It's per elderly within the community, and it's not something that ends. So we fund those 2 positions. They're part-time, 19 hours a week, both of them, and they're funded 100% through there. If they were not going to receive those state funds for some reason going forward, then we probably wouldn't keep them. But we don't have any sense of losing the elder services. In fact, they just increased how much we're getting per elderly. So we feel pretty solid on where those are. We have, like I said, 5 in HHSI, one of which is funded by the COVID contact tracing grant. That's Jasmine Nunez. She, as you will see when you get the budget tomorrow, we have included that position in the budget for 27 because that grant ends at June 30th, 2026, and she is an integral part of that department. She's a community outreach coordinator, which we do have right now 1 budgeted position and 1 grant position. Same position, but funded 2 different ways. And so this is really just bringing Jasmine on as a full-time. So we'd have 2 budgeted in that role. It's a budgeted position. The other 4 are funded through the shared services grant, which we actually have guaranteed through the end of fiscal year 27. So they're going to continue to be funded through the grant. And then the state has told us that they plan to continue to fund that grant in 28 and going forward. But again, it's not like the senior citizen one that is consecutive. This is a grant that came up. It's a shared services, so it's with Lawrence, so we share it with them. One of these employees are actually part of an employee in Lawrence that we fund through the grant. So we're good through the end of 27. We anticipate being good for at least the following year after that, but again, we haven't had any guarantees past 27. I will say the other part of her question too was about anybody that we've had prior that was a grant employee that we've brought on. And the only person that that we had was Joe Cosgrove, who's our environmental and energy planner. He originally was funded half and half. He was funded half by a grant and half in the budget. And then we brought him in a few years ago. It was 2024. We brought him in full-time with the budget and have funded it through the budget since then.
You all set? Yes. Okay, Councilor Drew?
Just because you said 5 of them are Health and Human Services, and we kind of touched on that when it comes to the fees. So in the event that we don't have those grants next year, hopefully if we address the fees that are not inappropriate but are a little low right now, maybe that'll help us protect these going into 28, 29 if this grant doesn't last. So
Absolutely.
I think that's definitely something we need to be prudent on, getting those permits fees raised and taken care of appropriately. I think that was, I had one other from your email. You said one of the major cost drivers, no, we already did that one. The increase to the ambulance rates, sewer rates, those things, we have to just get those moved, right? That ambulance rate, I know I briefly talked with the fire chief and the mayor about that. That's something that we need to do quickly, right?
Yeah, and we've done, again, our comps. So we've done the work as far as figuring out, where we are compared to other communities, and we're low. And then there's also a piece of it that we don't charge for. A few communities charge for lift fees as far as, a nursing home. If someone, this is going to sound terrible, if someone falls on the ground, they won't pick them up because it's a liability to them, so they'll call the fire department, and the fire department has to go and help. We don't charge for that, but a lot of communities are starting to charge for that because it is so costly to have all of your people out doing that. So that's something that we're going to propose as part of the ambulance fee conversation to offset those calls. So those two things are things, but yes, that would need to take action. We're hoping anything that we're assuming in 27's budget, we're hoping to bring in front of council in June so that it's a cohesive conversation that continues and gets resolved, as opposed to bringing it, in a few months where this is already, the budget's already passed, and we want to just keep it kind of all as one conversation.
Yeah. And I agree. It's awful that anybody would allow somebody in a nursing home to fall and not want to help them, and they don't want to hurt themselves, and the business doesn't want to hurt themselves because they open themselves to workman's comp and those things. But from us as a business, we're sending our people in with our potential liabilities and our potential workman's comp. As a community, we have to protect ourselves. So
Exactly.
If we have to put that in, because that's a burden on us, if we, God forbid, have a fireman help lift somebody and he pulls his back,
Right.
We end up on the hook for that. So I am fully in support of trying to.
And it's substantial. So when the first idea of this came up, I was, to me, I was like, oh, well, how often? So we have over 200 calls in last year. The year before was almost 200 calls, just for that. So it really is substantial, and it's getting more substantial.
Right, and that's a big cost, because I'm
Yeah.
assuming these are like $500 pickups or something. So Okay, I think that was really all my questions on the assumptions. Oh, sorry, I spoke too soon.
That's okay.
On the barrels, I know we've talked this to death, but I'm going to want to, hopefully the mayor has a plan for implementation of getting these fees. I don't know if we're assessing them to our tax bills. I know we had talked about possibly attaching it as like a betterment to the tax bill, or, because sometimes you'll just get an email in your inbox and people don't see, oh, you have to renew your trash barrel.
And I think that's the way it's been going out, and I think that that's not working. So
Right,
we
so
do need to find.
I think it also should, then at least it'll be attached to the homeowner, because we do have quite a bit of community here that are renters, and they may call and order a barrel, and then they may move.
Right.
And, well, that house now has 2 barrels, but that person who is now the renter, I didn't want the barrel.
Right.
But it should be attached to that landlord or that building owner so that they can continue to pay that. Because just from some of the conversations, it sounded like it was about 1,200 barrels or so from our last meeting. I know somebody threw a crazy number of like 4,500, which was not correct.
Right.
But for people who have double barrels, let's just say 1,000 at the $100 a year. I mean, that's $100,000 that funds a position,
Yeah.
along with pays for some of our added costs. Because my understanding about the barrels is each barrel creates about 3/4 of a ton of trash per year. So even with our cost of tipping being about $220 per ton, we're very much under what that cost is to the city. So we need to look at that and say, well, 175 is kind of, or 150 is the bottom, because that's going to cover what that's actually making up. Because if somebody takes an extra barrel, that should be on them.
Right.
Just like everybody, I produce a lot of trash. So if I want to go get an extra barrel, which I have an extra barrel. I bought an extra barrel, and I have no problem paying that extra fee because it's my family is creating more. I should not put that on the backs of the people. So, very long-winded way to say, do we have a plan to ensure that we're going to capture those costs? Because that is going to be a big assumption, and we had a big debacle over the last month and a half over this. So I just want to make sure we're not sitting here again going, yeah, we screwed up.
Yeah. So I think there's a few different pieces to this. The mayor's actively looking at it. In fact, I know he was looking at the report of what's outstanding just this morning. So part of it is that Harvey's going to take over that for us to ensure that those go out timely and et cetera. We'll take the money in here, but that they'll be at least getting billed appropriately. We're looking too at increasing those fees and what would be appropriate, and that's something we bring forward to council. Similar to, and I don't know if he's still over there, but I think Ryan had mentioned it at Councilor DeZoglio, had mentioned it at one of the council meetings about getting something to council that was more detailed as far as what that looks like and what the expectations are. And so that's what we're working on, but just trying to figure out what that number is as far as how much to charge. Do we charge for recycling bins too, but maybe less? It's all like we're trying to figure that out right now. But that is something that we're planning to bring forward to council.
Okay, and I hope that when we do it, I mean, to me, it makes sense that would be as of FY, whatever it is, July 1, every barrel owner gets a bill.
Yeah,
And it should just be a blanket, so we're not tracing, oh, I got mine in April, and he got his in January, and he got his in, as of the new FY year, that's when your bill goes and hits. That to me seems like the easiest and cleanest way to do it, and that's why if it goes onto our tax bill, in my opinion, this is like a betterment that hits your taxes, might be the easiest and cleanest way to do it. I don't know legally how we can do that, if there's like a way to sign that, but I'll talk with Councilor DeZoglio and see what his, we talked briefly about it, see what that barrel ordinance looks like that he's putting together, and maybe we can collaborate on it.
I'd be happy to be part of that conversation.
Okay, great.
And just to piggyback off that, what's our plan to roll out having that second barrel? I know we talked about it as well, and that's a great point because we understand the first barrel is built into the tax bill or whatever, right? So the fee is not the fee, because it's, right? Like the barrel fee, it's already paid for, it's built in, yes?
For the first
one.
barrel, yes.
The
Yeah.
second one, you know, Counselor Drew made the point, he doesn't want it, the extra tonnage and everything falling on the taxpayer, but if you're getting a second barrel, it's not, and your fee isn't covering what's in that second barrel, it's on the taxpayers, right?
And
If you
that
have a
was the
second or a
intention.
third.
Yeah.
And so that's not really fair for the people, especially who have one. And I would think the average family has a couple, right? I mean, you said you do, but I can't imagine a family of, let's say, 4 having one barrel.
My family with my wife, my 2 children.
We're small.
We've had 1 barrel and 1 recycling bin for a very long time.
Huh.
I've only recently gotten the second barrel. So
So I will say I'm on private trash pickup, but my family of 5 uses much bigger bins than the city has. 2 of them at least a week. So I guess I make more trash than you do. But I mean, and I'm not looking to go the highest on people who are taking, but like you said, even the lowest cost of having that second barrel should at least be applied to people getting a second barrel. So my question was, how are we going to roll that out for people who have been paying a certain amount for the second barrel? Are we going to then roll out something that says, hey, if you want to keep it, it's going to be this amount, and then put that on the tax bill? Like, how's that going to be?
I think that's what you'd have to do, is say, you know, we're making this change, and I think too, it's kind of like a clean slate at this point, because some people aren't paying and some people aren't, you know, so just to say, like, going forward as of whatever date.
Yeah.
I would love for it to be July 1, but we'll
Sure.
see. But to say, as of this date, this is what the cost is going to be for X, Y, and Z, you know, whatever trash barrels. This is how we're going to bill it. And if you don't want it, then let us know and we'll come pick it up.
Or if you don't pay for it, we're going to repo the trash.
That's right.
the
Or if you
trash
don't pay for
barrel.
it within a certain period of time, we're going to pick it up. Yeah.
I envision it more as like a stepped rollout, where this year might raise by 50, next year we may have to go by another 25.
And it
to get
depends
to
what
where
that
it needs
number
to.
is, right?
Yeah.
So we'll I guess we'll see.
Just adding up to what you just said. I thought that we had an environmental position so that we can help our community with that issue.
So that's for fees and like people not complying with the trash, what's going in. right, to the barrel.
My understanding was that we were trying to educate our citizens so that we can start recycling more. I mean, that was my understanding.
You know, you're right.
Okay.
But they're two different issues. So one is like the cost of the actual barrel, assuming they're doing it all right and not overfilling it.
Right.
So under no circumstances, I think those barrels should be overfilled, because that's always going to cost us extra tonnage.
Right.
So my understanding is that position is going to monitor the overfilling, what's going in recycling, right? Like to comply with having a normal situation without extras on the trash.
So my point is that if we have this position open and she's going to be taking care of that, the expectation is for next budget, our budget for recycling and trash is going to be less.
Right, but what Councilor Drew was saying is like if someone takes a second barrel,
No, I
even
got
if they
that.
comply with everything, we're at a deficit, yes? We're losing money on it. So I guess it's 2-tier, right? So yes, if all goes as planned, I'm assuming we should be budgeted and
We should see our tonnage.
that should be it.
Better.
Yeah.
Better, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an exact science, right? But
Right. And I do think, too, we could probably, you know, as she's finding, if she sees that people are overflowing, we could have, you know, a flyer or something, or a letter that maybe goes into a mailbox. It's like, if you're getting fined, then maybe you should be looking into what this looks like.
And to Councilor Drew's point too, I hope that that notice would go out to the landlord as well.
Yes.
If it is a renter, and if a renter is requesting a second barrel, if the landlord's going to be on the hook for it, then the landlord should be the one who approves it or not.
Yeah, and I think the homeowner, so the letter would need to go, like, to the homeowner. Yeah.
But even for the request, yes?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I'll double check that.
Yeah, because if you have a renter requesting 3 barrels with no intention to pay for it, then you're going to put the landlord on the hook.
Right.
That just doesn't seem right. If you're going to be liable, then you should be the one agreeing to it as well.
Right, because you're taking money out of that landlord's pocket when they anticipate it. Granted, it's pennies on the dollar when you look at it in the grand scheme, but if they're keeping their rents at a reasonable rate.
But it might not be if they're overfilling their trash, or if we implement the fines, or, right? Because that's all going to fall back on the landlord, potentially, if that tenant defaults.
And I know there, can I speak?
Of course, yes. This is a discussion. This isn't a formal vote.
I know that there is a lot of discussion out in the community where people hate the trash system. And I've done a lot of in-depth dive into the trash.
Not literally.
Not literally. I try to stay out of it. But I've looked at the numbers, and in 2020 or 2019, our trash, we were doing about almost 21,000 tons of trash and about 3,000 tons of recycling. Since this implementation of this, we've seen it come down, and it's trended down properly. We're at about 14,200 tons per year now. So we've seen a 6,000 ton come down, and our recycling's actually gone up 2,000 to 3,000 tons. So we're seeing people be more cognizant of it, and it is working. And I think what people need to understand is, if we didn't have this, our trash system right now would be $3,000 to $4,000, $3 to $4 million more per year than what we're currently paying. So that's why we went to this system. So, and I'm not a huge fan of this. When I moved here, I thought it was the greatest thing in the world because I could just put anything I wanted on the street, and they took it. But it is something as a city that we, looking at from being financially prudent, this does help us, because if people don't want the taxes going up, I know I don't.
Yeah, of course.
$3 to $4 million a year just in trash is not something I want to pay. So this system is working. We are seeing the trends going down on the trash side, 6,000 tons. I mean, we're losing almost 1,000 tons a year, or we were upon implementation. We're starting to kind of level out. But we are seeing the recycling going up, which is a good thing. So if we keep that going, it's going to help us. And I think with the new trash person coming in, that may see a bump come down a little more also to help us financially and help that recycling go up. Because recycling, I believe, is $110, $120 a ton.
It's about half.
Yeah, and the trash is like
Whatever trash it is.
220, 240. So the more recycling we do, the better, and it is for each homeowner. So
Maybe
I
we
just
could-
wanted to clarify that for anybody who is watching or has questions about trash. This system, as much as we all hate it, is definitely something that is working. It is a tool for this community to be financially prudent in watching our dollars.
Councilor Sanchez?
Maybe we can look into the whole trash situation within 6 months to see how much improvement we have after the implementation of the new position for the
We're going to get
the
those
trash.
updates, yeah?
I believe with the $850,000 transfer, we put on
Every
some
month.
amendments to it. We get a monthly update of fines, corrections, things like that, that are supposed to be reported to us monthly. So I think that, and I think we should keep that going for at least the next year. And I think once we kind of get our hands wrapped around it in that system, we may want to go to a quarterly report.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that comes to this finance subcommittee
Yeah.
for a quarterly report. So I'd love to see a quarterly report, like I've said before, with the CAFO, so we can look at long-term trends of items that may need to move, so we can make those recommendations to the council.
And it's the blindsiding, I think, right? Like, that big transfer, or, that's what everybody, I think, has a hard time with. Residents, counselors, whatever. So if we can monitor these trends, up or down, at least we can develop like a fluid plan or something as we go along. And that was a great point you made, Counselor Drew, actually, about comparing the old system to the new, because we hear all the time, like, why didn't we stay with it? But that's not an apples to apples.
Right.
We don't know where we would have been with the old system. So it's a good point, because people always compare that old number to what we're dealing with now, but that old number, that wasn't going to stay.
Right.
So
Right, our tonnages have still risen
Yeah.
cost-wise, and we would have just been making more trash.
yeah, so it's a very valid point to consider.
Also, we need to take into consideration that our community is growing as well.
Yep.
It's growing very rapidly.
All right, so the next item on the agenda. We do have quite a few new sitting counselors, some returning. I know even for myself, every year, I know the budget's a little different from mayor to mayor. It's different. So the FY27 budget workshop materials and process, we'll have a discussion of what information and materials the City Council should expect to receive for the FY27 budget workshops, including how the budget information will be presented and what format would best help the council review the budget efficiently.
So let me go process first.
Sure.
Right now, the plan is to provide the council the electronic spreadsheet tomorrow. It will be in the afternoon. And it will be, and I referenced it on the document that I had sent to you, but it will be the appropriation order, which is what the council will actually be voting on. And then also we'll provide the detailed budget report that is how we do the BVAs, it's how we have done the budget in the past as far as that goes. That we are planning to provide tomorrow. If we can provide additional, we will, but right now our focus is making sure that we get the main document to you. The remaining supplementary budget reports, documents will be next week. And I could send them as we have them complete. I'd rather send it as one big document, but also time is of the essence, so I understand that. So as far as schedule goes, next week we have our budget workshops. So department heads, so this is Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, the department heads will come up and we will go through that spreadsheet that you'll receive tomorrow. And we go through it in detail. You vote on it by total personal services or total other expenses for each department and then the total department. But we give you the detail of what's in those lines so that we can have a fruitful conversation about what's included, what we're budgeting for, but you don't necessarily vote on the individual, office supplies, and you'll vote on those sections, which is why I give the appropriation order too, so that you kind of know what we actually are going to be voting on. But at those meetings, 2 nights, we'll have each department head come up and we'll go through all of the departments, and with the mayor and I also here, and they will go through and present their budget. This year's budget is bare bones, where we have really struggled to get a balanced budget because of the nature of what things look like, which I'm sure isn't a surprise as far as how things have been going. But we will have a balanced budget to you tomorrow. It's going to be bare bones. I don't know how else to say it. But the department heads will go up, they'll go through their budget, they'll give an opportunity to the counselors as far as, what questions do you have about the department, the services, what's in the budget, et cetera. So that will happen. Half the departments will go Tuesday, half the departments will go Wednesday, and then we actually have the first read on Thursday. So the first read is when we actually go through, again, that report, and you, as counselors, will vote. Now, counselors cannot add to the budget. You either can accept it or you can cut it, but you can't add. So that is the process of the first read. So we'll go literally, department by department and say personal services, city council, and the number. You guys will have discussion, and then you'll either vote to approve it or not approve it or cut it. And then we'll go to the next department. So we'll go through that. It's that first meeting, and then the second read is on Tuesday, the 26th, which is the following Tuesday, and you do the same thing over again. So you'll go back through I'll give you an updated report with any changes that the council had made on the first read. I'll give it to you so that we know what we're talking about. I'll give you an updated report, and then we'll go through that report, and you do the same process again. Go through line by line. Again, you can either approve, reject, or cut, and then we'll go through the budget, and then hopefully at the end, we have a final budget that's been approved, and we're done.
Did you have a question? Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Drew.
So during the budget workshop, if we have concerns, maybe something we think is underfunded, if something may be overfunded, which you're saying is probably not the case, we don't make cuts during the workshop.
That's right.
Cuts happen during the reads.
That's right.
Okay. During the workshops, will there be, I mean, obviously, are we in front of the public? Will there be public participation? I mean, I guess this is
I don't
Question.
know that there is public participation.
No, but that's the hearings, right? The
Yes,
hearings.
so there's I'm sorry, I skipped over the hearing. So on the first budget read, we start with budget hearings. So we have one hearing for Water Sewer Enterprise Fund, and we have one hearing for the general fund. And that is when the public can come and speak to what the budget looks like and have that public participation. And then those happen ahead of the first read. So I want to say, so say they'd be at like 5:15 and 5:30, and then our first read starts at 6. I'm not sure if that's the right timing, but that's the idea.
So if there's people who are, polarized by a specific item, maybe they don't like the way that we're spending money at the library.
Yes.
And they want to come speak,
The public
come and
hearing.
speak on Thursday.
Thursday at the public hearing.
Tuesday and Wednesday, department heads will be here. I mean, obviously, people are welcome to come sit in the room.
Yep.
What it looks like, it's going to be 90 degrees.
Oh,
So we may want to see if the air conditioners work. But if anybody wants to come and speak to the council and make their case about anything, watch them and then come speak on them on Thursday.
that's right.
Okay, if anybody is watching, to clarify that for them, so that people don't just come and sit in the hall expecting to be able to be heard
Yep.
and then not be heard. So, okay, that was all.
Yeah, and I will say, just from my 2 previous cycles and that experience, I think most of the work is the workshop and going through it, and then the first read. The second read is just kind of,
Solidifying.
yeah, it's much easier, but I think the bulk of the work is like going line by line through the workshops, listening to the hearings, and usually if there's a new position or something, the department head will, lobby for it or give you a reason. And
Explain what it's for.
yeah.
what
And
it's
even
gonna
though you can't cut a specific area, they'll know,
Yeah.
and you'll know very specifically what it's coming from just by the amount.
the amount, and you can
pretty
absolutely say what your intention is. I mean,
They just
you
don't
don't have to. But that, to say, I don't think that we should fund this position, or so then you would reduce that total personal services by however much. So the intention can be whatever. Ultimately, the mayor gets to decide how to spend that line, but you can absolutely say why you're saying
Suggest.
it. Yeah, or you don't have to. That's up to you.
Okay, that's pretty fair, and we'll get it also in a
Yes.
book form.
So you're going to get
similar to-
electronically tomorrow, but you will get a book Monday. Our plan would be to give it to you in Monday when we come for our regular meeting. We'll give it to the council office ahead of Monday's meeting, but if you want it, in the past, we've delivered it. We've had police officers deliver it to your homes. We could do that. But because we were meeting on Monday, we thought that we would just give it to you Monday, but
So the books just won't be ready till Monday, but we will have the electronic
We'll have
for
the
us to be able to
electronic
review
version.
for the weekend and do what we need to and make our items and.
yes. And if we have additional supplementary ready tomorrow, I'll send that too. But just as far as expectations go, we'll just send the electronic actual budget document.
Will the binders be available tomorrow
Tomorrow?
to pick up?
No,
No?
not right now.
Okay.
Maybe. It depends on how quickly everything turns around. But if they are, I'll let you know. But the expectation should be that they won't be ready.
Okay.
But my follow-up question to that would be what, I sent the budget document, and I know I sent it today, so I don't expect you to have gone through it, but there are certain things that I've provided in the past, or is there certain things that would be helpful as far as backup documents? One of the things that we're going to provide is the budgeted positions spreadsheet that shows who's in what position and how much that position makes, and which really gives you more information. It'll have the account number on there too, so you'll know, kind of where those are budgeted. I'll also give you the wage and salary classification, so just what different positions make for fiscal year 27. So those I will give you, but is there anything else that you think would be beneficial to provide? There'll be other things that I provide as well, but just off the top of your head, if there's something that would help you specifically,
Last year's budget.
last year's budget. So the way that the budget spreadsheet will be, and I can give more than that, but is it has 27's proposed budget on it, but it will also have 26's budget, and then it'll have 25 and 24's
Okay.
budget and actuals. So you'll be able to see that history a little bit right as you're looking at it. And we can give more, the 10-year is actuals, are a spreadsheet that I usually give as well. I know I emailed that out, but those will be right on that detailed list, or detailed report, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good, or-
Yeah. I think I'm pretty good. I think I understand what you have. I looked at it last year, the blue, the pink, the green, all the different years.
From the other set.
Yeah, from over there. But is there, probably screw up all of your columns, and you've probably already sent this thing off to print.
That's okay.
No, I can just do the math. It's fine. I was just,
No, I don't mind. I
because I
really,
was just going to look at maybe, can we do a percentage of the year-over-year changes that we're seeing, or
yep, so.
that might make that line a little too cumbersome, so.
Well, and what we could do is, and I think I've done some version of this, is a summary. But we can do line by line, but yeah, it would make it quite large, but I don't mind doing that.
No, I think that'll be fine. I have the electronic document. I'll just run it through my own, and
We can see too, I feel like every year at the end of the budget workshops, there's always a suggestion
Yeah.
after having gone through it about how to change it. So if we find that we're doing it for a lot of the individual line items, it might be something worth adding to next year's.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's more of a, the need arises as it's discovered.
Yeah, and one of the things that we will do is by whatever those sections are that you vote on, we'll do a percentage from the prior year as far, so you can see the change as far as that, total personal services or total expenses. But the individual lines specifically, we don't do. But yeah, we'll give you some of that. And if there's something that you don't need to answer me right now, but that's kind of my feedback. If there's something that you think of over the weekend or tonight or whatever that you think would be helpful, please just shoot me a text or an email or anything to let me know, because I'm happy to provide whatever I can to make it easier.
Thank you.
will you also, the capital improvement plan, does that get presented to us also, or how does that?
So no, I'm glad that you brought that up. So normally, yes, we would provide that right now as well. So right now, because of everything that's going on, we actually put a hold on going through 27's CIP. What you're actually going to see, and we'll talk more about next week, is that we have taken fiscal year 26's CIP, and we're actually only going to bond a portion of it. So the council approved us to bond up to $12 million. But what that means is that we will have to pay debt service on that in fiscal year 27. And because of the nature of looking at layoffs and looking at all of these, really intense things, part of what we looked at was what can we hold off on for fiscal year 26's CIP until next year being July, but, and break out that approval as far as our debt service payments go. So we have decided to only bond, I think it's just under $5 million of it, for projects that are either imminent or we've already started, or we can provide you the detail of what that looks like. And we haven't bonded yet, we're still in that process, but that allowed us to reduce our debt service payments next year by half, a little more than half actually. And so that alleviated some of the pressure on 27. So we thought that was the responsible thing to do. And then being able to reassess the rest of the 26 CIP this summer once the fiscal year changes. And then in cohesion with what is 27 CIP, should we go there, should we not? It'll drive that conversation. But just as far as 26 CIP and the budget goes, that's what we decided.
So we're not, I'm just again, I'm
Sorry,
kind of
that was
wrapping
a
my head
lot.
around it.
It's a lot, yep.
So it sounds like we're just saying, all right, we haven't fully been able to vet any major projects that are coming. You know, we know imminent things, like there might be a bridge that needs to be fixed or things like that we have to pay for. So we haven't identified anything that's super crazy outside of the norm that we need to go and basically take a loan on. So we're only going to take 5 million, so we have basically an equity loan just sitting there if we need it.
Yeah, so we won't have an equity line, but we'll have the ability to bond for those projects because they've already been approved. We can bond those in next year or the year after. Anytime it's approved by council, you can bond it like later on. It doesn't expire, I should say. So we can look at, we took basically what is critical, what have we already started, what do we know that we can get after, that like in real time, like we're ready to go, and we are bonding for those things. And we'll take that authorization into the next year, into fiscal year 27, and say, okay, now let's look at what we still have open that we didn't bond for yet in 26. What's critical? What do we need to get after that maybe we need to put on 27? That work that we normally do now, normally we would bond the whole thing and we'd just like get rolling, and then we would present the next year's. We're just taking a pause basically and say like, this is what is critical right now that we need to take debt on, and that way we don't have to pay debt service for the whole thing just yet.
And if we need to bond further, let's say in November we go, oh, we need to take a bond on this project, we can still bond into our CIP.
Yes. And the plan is, my intention would be that we get after those in 27. But so we're basically breaking out 26's CIP so that it's more palatable as far as the debt service payments go, to break it out over the 2 years with the way that the nature of 27's budget. It was hard for us to say, let's bond the whole amount, even if we're not ready for some of these projects, and then have to lay off because we've done that. So trying to balance.
Right, let's not pay interest on a loan we're not using when we're looking at laying people off.
Exactly. So trying to balance those needs. And so we were able to, like I said, cut our debt service in half for what we had to budget for next year. So, and now we'll look this summer at what 26 is left, what might not be on that list that we need for 27's CIP, and kind of reassess that. So it's going to be, we'll bring that forward to council, but it'll have to be more delayed than it normally would be. Normally we'd provide it now, and you don't necessarily vote on the appropriation now. Usually we vote for that approval sometime in the fall, but it'll be a little delayed.
Okay, will there be a parks RFP
So the
in
parks,
there,
so
in the
we
building?
still have, so you have to, so this is just 26 too. So we still have funds remaining from 22, 23, 24, 25. So we're able to utilize those still for some of these things that, you know, whether we didn't spend all of the money in 1 year, we have funds left over, et cetera. So that's that report that I provide. But we did still get after a lot. So parks is in there. I think there's like $100,000 that we still bonded for parks to get after. And again, come July, all of this is back available to us. It's just trying to spread that out a little bit.
All right, sounds good.
Good. Any other questions about the workshop materials and process? No, we're good.
Will it all be tabbed like it is here in the school one?
Was it tabbed last year?
I thought it was. I just
think
got mine
it
today.
was.
I haven't looked at it at all. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. This is the school one he's looking at. I think it was.
I thought it was.
I think it is.
Is it not?
No, we don't know.
No,
but
the
I
school
think
one's all
The school
tabbed.
one is.
Oh,
He's asking if the
ours.
city one would be.
It's like a bunch of
We've
teachers or
done,
something.
we've done it.
was.
We've tabbed it. We've
I
not tabbed
know.
it. So
It doesn't
I
matter.
don't. Last year, I don't think we did. I think we had a table of
Contents, right?
So it was,
Yeah.
you know, on police is on page 35 or whatever it is, so that you could go to that. But
Yeah, I do like the tabs.
The only problem with the tabs is most departments are only one page.
Sure.
So then you've got. you
Tap,
know,
tap, tap, tap.
Yeah, so many tabs, and then there's a couple that are 2 or 3 pages. The school's budget is obviously,
Fair enough. I don't remember finding it, though, difficult to navigate through last year, so.
it's been a work in progress.
Yeah.
I think we did better last year with the table of contents. Yeah, so.
Awesome. We put the next one on, but I'm not sure how much of a discussion we can really have on it. So the last item on our agenda is Methuen Public Schools FY27 budget, which we're all super excited about. High-level review and expectations of any free cash asks and potential impacts to the Methuen Public Schools operations with the impending cuts. And the reason, obviously, I'm saying this is difficult to discuss is because it goes back to that whole white horse theory.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know our circuit breaker is going to come. We don't know all these things that are coming at the 11th hour. And I think we're all operating under the worst case scenario right now,
Yeah,
which is a
I would
really
have
tough
to.
place to be in.
Yeah. So what I can tell you, I would recommend, watching the school committee meetings, because I think that's where you're going to get the most detail and information as far as what those discussions look like. But the school committee voted on a budget that's higher than what the mayor is putting forward, so similar to what happened last year. But the mayor is moving forward with his number, so what you'll see in the budget is the number that he gave them. So there is a significant gap there still.
Which is what happened last year, yes?
It is what happened last year until the state came in at that last second and said, we have circuit breaker.
But the way
money
it was
for you."
presented, it was the same.
Originally, yes. Yes.
And what is the gap?
What was that?
What is the gap in the budget?
I believe it's around $4 million at this point. So what they have provided there versus the number that you're going to see in the budget from the mayor is about $4 million difference. Councilor Drew?
Looks to be about 4.534 million. They originally level serviced at 123,210,000. Looks like they made some substantial cuts of about $4.5 million. So with that other $4.5 million still sitting there, from watching some of the school committee meetings and listening to their budgets, what sounded like is they were going to come to us with one-time asks to help offset some of that cost. Also possibly taking on the unemployment insurance
So we already
component.
we took that on last year, so that's part of, yes, so we're already tracking that as far as unemployment goes. So that would be something that earlier in the meeting, we talked about funding those unemployment, ILD, workers' comp. That would be part of that discussion. As far as other one-time asks, it's not something we've discussed yet. So I don't have anything as far as,
So we don't know if the mayor's proposing coming to us for $1 million in one-time asks and then an additional amount of money to help figure that out. He's coming to us with 113 million, and that's his number.
and they
And
need
if
to
we
figure
approve
it out.
that, and then they have to find 4.5 million in further cuts.
Yes, or
Which-
I think what their hope is, based on the school committee meetings, is that they are going to come in on the white horse. So, but we have a responsibility to bring forward what we know, and so that's why we're moving forward with the number that we gave them.
I'm just concerned, I guess, with their number still being 4.5 million over what the mayor's, and they've cut 4.5 million already, and that 4.5 million that they're cutting is the equivalent of, just call it 50 positions. It's for round numbers, probably more than that. We're talking another 50. So if we don't get the white horse come riding in, we're going to see another 50. So at that point, do we have to have a discussion about, we as a community, what do we do to not completely
Fail.
dismember our school system? I mean, they're already looking at classroom sizes that, to me, are a little scary. If they go down a set of classrooms across the district, we're talking 30, 35 kids in a class. That becomes you're herding cats at that point. You're not teaching kids.
And they will be here too as part of the department heads, like they will come in. I think that they're on Wednesday. I think they're the second night. So they'll be here as well so that you can ask all of those questions to the school department as well.
Okay, but your budget has no come to us for asks for their departments, it's just mayor's coming at 113 and,
That's as far as I know, that is the plan.
okay?
And the hardest part, I find, sitting on this board, and I know we said this a lot, and we say it every budget, is that no matter what cuts we do, we can't choose where they're cutting, right? So you're talking
Right.
about 50 positions, we're looking at almost 40 of them being gen ed teachers. That's a problem for me. All classroom-facing positions. That's a really hard one for me to swallow, and yet, sitting in this seat, I have no say in that. And that's the hardest place to be. Even if that money comes in, we can't tell the school department what to save and what to prioritize. I mean, we can suggest anything, but we don't have that say. So, for me personally, that's the hardest thing. And again, while everyone hopes for extra money to come in, we're not guaranteed it. We don't know. And while I don't agree with where some of these cuts are being made, I don't have the final say.
Right.
So it's just, that's always a really tough one to get through, in my opinion. Anything, Mr. Santos? No?
I met with the school last week, and we kind of looked at the budget. They kind of present the draft that they had at the planning, just like you were saying. We need to try to see how we can help them as much as possible, because this is about failing our kids, failing our community. So our kids cannot be in a classroom of 30 per one teacher. That's kind of...
So I agree with you, but again, even if we find extra money, the one thing I want to make clear is the school can then turn around and save every other position but the teachers.
But, yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
So we just have to make sure that our priorities and whatever we do is aligned with what their intentions are.
So I know the schools are typically, their budget workshop is like second or third on the docket the second night. They're
I
usually
think it
like
was
the
Wednesday,
longest.
right?
Yeah, I think it's the second night.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Meeting, and you can always
Switch it. So we can,
Yeah, I just know that we may want to move them because I know the other,
get sure.
Departments.
I think we did that last year, yeah. Well,
I
you
think
were
so.
on that
I was
side.
on
That's
that
why I'm
side.
asking you.
But I think, yeah, you can change it however you want.
okay. If we find during this, if we don't agree with the line items as we come down, and let's say we cut $1 million. He's like, go ahead, find it. Find it. Can the mayor take that million and allocate it anywhere else?
He could, if you cut something on the first read, he could he could, if you cut on the first read, he could put it somewhere else for the second read. So, like, I believe. But then you would have to vote on that.
So if we cut, I'm just going to say $100,000 out of some line, and the mayor goes, okay, it's cut, and that's on Thursday. Coming to that following week, council, I've moved that 100,000 that you cut out of this line, and I put it into the school budget, or put it into DPW's budget, or whatever. We then have to just make sure that we read through there, see where he put that money.
I believe he can do that.
Okay. So if we are
I
making
would have
some
to
cuts
check with
coming
Paul
down.
on that, but I believe, yes.
Not that I think there's going to be much fluff in this, but, just from the dive I've done, I just want to know what's there.
Yep.
Because if we're just cutting, let's say our total budget at the end of the year is $220 million, and we cut $100,000 out of it, all right, so that $100,000 goes to free cash, great, or does
Well,
it go?
100,000, that 100,000, so now your budget's off balance, if you will. So if you cut, that will just go we won't tax that. So anything that gets cut doesn't then get taxed. So right now, our assumption is that we tax to the max, which is the 2.5%. Anything that is reduced from that would just then not be taxed. So it would like be under the levy, if you will.
Okay, yeah, so it's unutilized, so we don't need to get to that to pay for it, because
Right, so if it's cut.
we set the tax rate in December?
Yeah. November, December.
Right, so it's whatever we did in July, it recognizes what we have to do to this tax rate, so they can adjust.
Yes,
With the
and I will
assessments and
say
things?
too, if we get additional revenues, I will say this, I should have said it earlier, if we do get the final budget for the state comes in and we are getting a substantial amount more, you can reopen the budget before we set the tax rate. So you can have that conversation before we set the tax rate so that it is, and there's a process there, but in general, overview, you can reassess that so that you can appropriate those additional funds.
Okay. Thank you. Just trying to figure this all out.
Yeah,
I don't want to be
I'm
asking
happy
this
to
on,
answer any questions that
because it is mostly a new council sitting here, so at least a couple of us will be a little more readied up.
No, that works. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Capo, for coming tonight and having these discussions. Before we adjourn, do we have anything else? No, just,
Do we want to set another meeting?
I think we should wait until the budget is presented. There's literally.
There's no time between.
No, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So, unless you want to meet this Sunday, and I don't think anything new is going to come up.
I mean,
So, yeah.
I'll probably be sick of seeing you guys, no offense.
You heard it here.
Oh my God.
I will,
questions too as they come up.
thank you.
You guys, but also anybody on the council if they have questions.
Thank you. I'll
Yeah.
take a motion
Yep,
to adjourn.
so moved.
Counselor Drew, moved by Counselor Drew.
Second.
I need a second by the other.
Second.
Yeah, second. Counselor Santos, any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you for watching. It is 6:32.